In this video, we're going to create our profile views. So we'll go ahead into our views.py and we will import some generic views. And we'll import our Django views generic. So this time we're going to use a template view. So because we're not specifically making a page just to create or edit or send back a list, we will use the template view for this one. So we're going to create a class and we'll call this profiles and we'll pass in our template view. So we're going to pass it a template name. And this will be our profiles and profile.html that we created in an earlier video. So the next thing that we want to do is, instead of using a query set this time, because we're not using a view that's specifically attached to a model, we want to get context data instead of get query set. So getting the context data will allow us to get whatever data we want from whatever models we want or forms, things like that. And that will allow us to send it back to the template. So this time we're going to define our function and it's going to be get context data. We're going to pass in self and any keyword args. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to actually get the profile. So we're going to have to specify this time what is the primary key, and we're going to have to use a get request to go off and find that object. So the reason that we need to do it this way is because we haven't defined that model. It's not attached to anything. So we have to be very specific about getting it. We also don't want to just pass it, say the self.request.user, because we want to be able to view anybody's profiles, not just our own. So we'll go ahead at the top and we'll need to import our profile. So we'll, from .models, import our profile model. And from here we can say the profile is profile.objects.get. So as you see, the syntax is different this time. When you're calling a model direct, it's just model.objects.get, whereas when you're referring to the model that's defined in our class, you can do the self.model.objects. Okay, so when you're using the self keyword, you have to specify that it's the model that you're trying to get. So we'll say user equals self dot, and this is where we're going to use our keyword args. So we're going to pass in the primary key. So in other ones we didn't use the keyword args because we were sending that back. It was coming through the URL pattern and it knew what model we were searching for. We didn't actually need to do any of this. So this time specifically we're still going to pass our primary key back, but we're actually going to take it as a keyword argument. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a dictionary and we're going to call that context. And inside here we're going to say we want to send back the profile and then profile. Okay, so again, the left-hand assignment that is in our quotes is what we're going to access on the front end. So that's our context object's name. And the other assignment is our actual profile object that we got in the line above. So then we're going to return the context. So from here, I'm also going to create our URLs. So we'll create a new urls.py file. And from our Django URLs, we will import path. And from our views, we will import our new profiles class. We'll then define our URL patterns, and we'll create a new path. The path I'm going to use for this one is going to be user / and then I'm going to pass over our slug of our primary key. We then need to add our class, and we will load that as a view as we always do, and then we will give it a name. So our name is just going to be profile. So within our profile HTML then, we're just going to extend the base.html so that we can see this loading, but we will actually style this page a little bit later because I want to add the other backend functionality first, but we will leave that one for the next video. So we'll just go ahead and add it then into our navbar and ensure that it's working okay. So we'll create a new nav link and we will have that while the request user is authenticated. And in here, the URL name will be our profile URL that we just created. We will then use our curly brace percentage syntax to call the URL for profile. So for the nav link, I'm going to pass in our request.user's primary key. So that will mean if they click on the navbar profile button, it will take them to their own profile. But later on, if they click on somebody's username because they want to go and see what recipes they have, it will load their profile instead. So we're going to give it the request.user.id and finally add the profile. We'll now go into our main urls.py as we need to create the path for our profiles app. So we'll create a new path and we'll call this profiles, and we will use the include function to pass in our profiles.urls. So we'll go ahead now and start up the run server. And we can see our new profile nav link. So if we click that now, we should be loaded. So there's our URL pattern of our profiles, our user, and our user ID. So I'm not too happy about the profile being on that side of the logout, so we'll just switch back over to our header and move that positioning. So we'll copy this out and we will put it in before the accounts. So that's a little bit better. So in the next video, we'll complete the remaining backend functionality for our profiles app.